everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie, and today we are going to make 4 Instant Pot recipes. These are super easy, but they are some of my most recent favorites, and they're perfect for fall. That pumpkin right there may or may not be the star of the show for one of the recipes, and it's not in the way that you're thinking. So today I'm going to show you how to make loaded baked potatoes, chicken fried rice, dinner in a pumpkin, which is where the pumpkin comes in, and a super easy instant pot rice pudding. And the rice pudding could double as breakfast or a dessert. So let's jump into making the risotto first. I actually like to make this recipe kind of ahead of time. It reheats beautifully. And then after that, we're gonna jump straight into making dinner in a pumpkin.
The first thing that we're making today is instant pot rice pudding. This is such a cozy fall breakfast or dessert. You can make this ahead and it reheats beautifully. So the first thing we're doing is adding some rice to the instant pot. I'll have all the measurements listed below for these recipes too, by the way. And then add some water, and we'll season it with cinnamon and nutmeg. I also like to season mine with a pinch of salt. I use Redmond salt, and I have a discount code for this in the description below. And then give everything a really good stir. It's important at this point to make sure that the rice is all submerged underwater. I also always check the ring around the lid of my Instant Pot before I use it. Place the lid on and turn the pressure release valve to closed. And we're gonna pressure cook for 7 minutes. I also had a catastrophe when I was putting the rice away. I spilled it all over the floor. The dog does not care, as you can tell. Okay, back to our rice pudding. The cook time is over, so I let it natural release for 15 minutes, and then I finished by quick releasing and removing the lid and giving everything a nice stir to fluff it up. This rice is overcooked and you want it that way. Next, I add an egg, which I love. It adds some protein and some milk. I sweeten this with organic cane sugar. The recipe calls for 1/3 cup, but I like a little less, so I just add 1/4, and then add in some vanilla and mix this all really well. Make sure your eggs are well mixed, otherwise they will cook in your rice pudding and it won't look pretty. Give this all a really good stir, and we are going to turn the saute mode back onto our Instant Pot and just cook this down for a couple of minutes. The starches will release and thicken the pudding for you. If you're making this ahead of time, I would leave it a little bit on the runnier side because it will thicken in the fridge. Because it thickens in the fridge, when you're ready to reheat it, place it in a saucepan and add some extra milk to thin it out a little bit. And then I like to top with a little bit of cinnamon and some raisins. I hope y'all enjoyed this recipe as much as me and my family have been. All right, the next recipe is one of my favorites. It's dinner in a pumpkin or soup in a pumpkin, and this one's just fun. So the soup is basically a zuppa toscana soup. And the first thing I'm doing is washing my pumpkin because we are going to be putting this in the oven to roast. And then this is the vessel that will hold our soup and serve. This is such a showstopper. So once you've washed your pumpkin, then go ahead and remove the top and gut your pumpkin. This was always my favorite job as a kid when we carved pumpkins. Make sure you scrape all of the inside so it's nice and clean too. And then I have some softened cream cheese that I am just using my hands to smear all on the inside of the pumpkin as well as the lid of the pumpkin. Line a baking sheet with some parchment paper and then place your pumpkin on top of the baking sheet and the lid too, and place it in an oven, and you're going to bake this for about an hour. While the pumpkin is baking, roasting, whatever you want to call it, we are going to get started on the soup. So I am chopping up 1 onion, and I turned the Instant Pot to the saute mode. Added some oil to the bottom of the pan and put some mild ground sausage in here. If you would prefer, you could do hot spicy sausage, but my kids don't love that, so we do mild. And then add in your onions and cook this down until the sausage is mostly browned and the onions are translucent. Add in a little bit of minced garlic and cook that for just about a minute. Then add in some broth. This is homemade broth that I made the day before. And also add in some Italian seasoning. Now I am getting the potatoes ready. I have some red potatoes that I'm dicing and adding to my Instant Pot, and give it all a good stir. Place the lid on your Instant Pot, make sure the pressure valve is sealed to close, and we're going to pressure cook for 11 minutes. While the Instant Pot is cooking, we're gonna move on to making kind of like a cheesy sauce and a thickener. So to a blender, I've added a stick of cream cheese and some milk, and I'm also going to add some all-purpose flour and a little pinch of real salt, and then turn the blender on just for a few seconds to make sure that the cream cheese is fully incorporated. Once the Instant Pot is done cooking, you can go ahead and do a quick release and remove the lid. Add your milk mixture into your soup. I find that I don't need all of the milk that the recipe calls for. It would be too milky, but you can play with it and make adjustments as you want to. And then I add in some kale. I have just washed it and shredded it into smaller pieces, and then add that directly into your soup, and the hot soup will kind of wilt it and soften it a little bit. The pumpkin is done roasting, so now is my favorite part of this whole thing, adding the soup to the pumpkin. So first I use a ladle to help me transfer, and then once I have just a little bit left, I go ahead and pour it in to my pumpkin. And look at how cute and beautiful this is. Wouldn't this be perfect to serve to guests or just to your family for a fun special fall treat? Make sure when you're serving the soup, you scrape some of that pumpkin and get that into your soup, because that is really delicious. This next one is such an easy one. It's loaded baked potatoes. These are perfect for a quick weeknight meal. But the first thing you do is rinse and scrub really good your potatoes and pierce them with a fork. Place the rack at the bottom of your Instant Pot and then add in your potatoes on top of the rack. You can add quite a few potatoes and cook them this way, and then pour in some water and place the lid on your Instant Pot. Make sure the pressure valve is in the closed position, and we're gonna pressure cook for about 15 minutes. This depends on the size of your potatoes. It may need more or less. While it's cooking, I'm putting some bacon in the oven. This is my favorite way to cook bacon. And once the timer goes off, you can go ahead and do a quick release and take the lid off your Instant Pot. I always check my potatoes to make sure they're done with a fork, and they were. So to serve, this is how I like to do it. I slice open my potato and add butter first so it gets nice and melty. I'm also adding cheese and some sour cream. I'm crumbling the bacon on top and adding some green onions for flavor and color, and lots of salt, of course. The last recipe I'm sharing with you today is Instant Pot fried rice. This one's super yummy and gets in all kinds of protein with eggs, and I actually added chicken. That's optional, but the first thing that we're going to do is add our rice and some water and a pinch of salt. What I usually do is cook the rice ahead of time and get all of the ingredients prepped so that come dinner time, all I have to do is fry it up in the Instant Pot later. I cook this rice for about 7 minutes and let it natural release for 15. It comes out perfect every time. So I'm removing the rice from the Instant Pot and putting it in a separate container so I can pop it in the fridge and cook up the rest of my ingredients. Next, I am cracking 4 eggs into a dish. These are from my own chickens and I'm very proud of them. And then I'm scrambling them up, and I'm going to be cooking them in the Instant Pot, but truthfully I do prefer to cook this in a separate container on the stove. That way I don't have to wash the Instant Pot 3 times, but I wanted to show you that you could cook this entire recipe in the Instant Pot. So I'm scrambling them up really quickly, and then I remove them to a separate plate. Now I am cooking up some grated ginger and some garlic just for about a minute. And now I'm adding in my frozen mixed veggies, and I'm just heating them through. Once they're heated through, remove them from the pot onto the plate with the eggs and set those aside. And now we're gonna fry up the rice. So you wanna do this in 2 batches. Put it in the pot and push it down and don't stir it so it fries up for a couple minutes, and then you can remove that and add in the second batch to fry up. and make it nice and crispy. I'm adding in some shredded rotisserie chicken that we had in the freezer. That's optional. Add your rice back in, and now we're going to season it with some soy sauce and some sesame oil. The sesame oil adds such a great flavor. A little bit goes a long way. And I also want to say the ginger that we added to this recipe really comes through, and it's so yummy. It adds so much flavor. Give that all a quick mix, and then add back in your veggies and your eggs. Give it one last mix. Make sure it's all nice and warm, and then you can add in your green onions, stir it all together, and that's it. That is going to be it for today's video. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope that you try these recipes and fall in love with them the way that our family has. Let me know if you try them. Come hang out with me on Instagram at Simply Allie Homestead. I love y'all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.